This is rather interesting. It's got a beautiful curved beach. The sea is flat calm, and across the way, I'd say 100 feet or so, there's an island across there with old church ruins. And the old church ruins look really nice, but you can only get across there when the tide is out. Unfortunately, that's not the case now. Okay, so on a situation like this, I always turn up and then just peruse the area and look for an obvious shot to begin with, and look for a bit of character in the land. The only thing I've seen so far are these nice half-moon shaped piles of sand. They've obviously been created naturally when the tide has receded, and they look quite nice, they're quite characterful. But what's in the background? This is going to be a bit of a tough one. It's going to be a bit of a tough one. On the island across there as well, I can hear some seals. Gaz has got his 1 to 500mm lens with him. Gaz is looking at the seals as we speak, and I've only got my 70 to 200mm in the bag. I didn't bring my 1 to 400mm. I think it's too far to get a half decent shot even with a 1 to 400mm anyway, so that rules them out. I think I'm going to have to wander around a bit further just to see if any other obvious compositions present themselves. This sea is unbelievably flat calm. I am literally inches away from the sea. Look at that. Look down there. I don't think I've ever seen a sea that's so flat calm. Everything about this place is very calming. Well, today it is anyway, under these circumstances. As I'm wandering around, looking for compositions, looking for things of interest, I could just hear nature in all its glory. No waves. Weird. Awesome. Oh, I'm all excited now. I've just come around a corner and I've just seen almost a line of rocks jutting out into the ocean, which I think I can possibly use as foreground interest, shooting into the sun when the sun drops. Fingers crossed we're going to get that lovely orange ball of fire sitting neatly on the horizon. Well, that's what I'm hoping for anyway. But look, ooh, a bit high. I'm sure there's something I can do with that behind me. Can you see me? Yeah, there you go. Cool. Right, option number one. I think that looks very good. Before I start looking or finalising compositions, in the background there's a farmer's wall that juts down. I'm not sure if it goes into the sea, but there's a lump of wall right on the very end that from here could potentially make for an interesting point of foreground interest. Interesting interest. Two in one sentence, that's not good, is it? I've got an interesting question for you, and this is a question I genuinely don't know the answer to. I'm looking out into the distance with the intentions of photographing something, either just the sea, or there are 2 or 3 islands to my right hand side, and the island to my left hand side, the one with the church remains on it, the one I've already mentioned. But I've got a question for you, and I genuinely don't know the answer, and if anybody does, please drop a comment below. How large a mass of earth must there be for land to be classified as an island? So how big does an island have to be classified as an island? There must be some parameters, there must be rules and regulations that govern the naming of an island or what constitutes an island? Yeah, so there's a question for you. Do me a favour, just leave a comment down below because I genuinely want to know the answer. Right, this didn't look too bad. I may have found another composition that I'm happy with. Just need to make sure I don't break my bloody neck. Hang on a sec. Walking over all of these rocks. I've mentioned about these dark grey, light grey rocks that I really, really like. Now, moving slightly to an elevated area, I can look down and I can see a different style of rock in the water. There's a clump of rocks. Again, probably more my style. Shooting out to sea when the sun drops down. Really minimalistic and maybe a long exposure. There's a couple of clumps of rocks. These rocks do look quite nice because they go out in lines. So depending on where the sun falls, my only slight issue is I'm not sure if you can see over my shoulder or with this light at the moment, we're not actually sure where the sun's going to drop down onto the horizon. We've got an hour to go before the sun drops down, and fingers crossed. Seals out there, I'm not sure if you can see them on this camera. Look, very inquisitive, just looking up at me. Yeah, so depending on where the sun drops down, fingers crossed, we'll see the sun drop down onto the horizon. If not, we're going to see a dark outline of a mountain in the background that will be glowing, nice and orange. So there's my options. Minimum, foreground interest, long exposure, flatten that sea out, and a little bit further up here, either use the two-tone rocks as foreground interest, or there are some darker rocks up there with lines that will draw the viewer's eye in. Very interesting to use that as foreground interest again. Cool, okay. Oh, I'm a little bit excited about this, but I'm chilled and mellowed. You know, it's one of these places where you come to and think, well, you can just do your best. You could just do your best. And that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I've got about 45 minutes left to wait for the sun to drop down onto the horizon. And I'm just trying to finalise which is my best option, or what my best options are for my compositions. But look, let me give you a couple of tips. When you shoot directly into the sun, I critique a lot of people's work, and more often than not, people make the same mistakes. If they take pictures into a very bright sky, they tend to have missing detail in the sky, and it's so important that you try your utmost to ensure that nothing is overexposed in the sky. We as human beings cannot see anything that's overexposed. We cannot, it's impossible for us to see anything that's overexposed. If it's too bright for us, we'll wear glasses, or we'll just simply look away, screw our eyes up, or at worst, close our eyes. So it's unnatural for human beings to look directly at something that's overexposed. It's very unnatural. So a tip for you, when you're shooting into a very bright sky, try everything you can to ensure that you maintain detail. And look, the worst case scenario is set your camera's settings to expose for the very bright part of the image, and then everything else in the foreground is more than likely to be silhouetted. So if that is the case, then fine, use those silhouettes to your advantage, or take multiple exposures, or of course add filters. This is just fantastic. I mean, the conditions are just brilliant. Not necessarily brilliant for photography because there is no sky whatsoever to talk of, but the conditions where I am at the moment is just brilliant. I mean, I'm only wearing this body warmer just in case the temperature drops when the sun drops below the horizon. But as I'm looking out to sea now, I could see every now and again heads popping up, seals popping up, inquisitive animals just looking to see either what I'm up to or if I'm going to feed them. I don't know. Not sure what they're thinking. But yeah, this is very calming. I'm probably going to come away with one, maybe two pictures from here. But sometimes that's one or two pictures more than enough. Here's an example of what I mean. If you were to set your camera up and try and expose for these rocks along here, then clearly you're going to have an overexposed sky. Now you might well be able to bring neutral density filters in there to sort that sky out. Or, like I said, the worst case scenario is, and I'm doing this with my vlogging camera, I'm now going to lower that exposure right down until I could see all that detail in the sky. Now it's a completely different image. Look, all along the coastline here, it's all silhouetted. So if we could find something here to silhouette, what a brilliant picture. Now, a slight streak there and a slight hot spot in the sky is acceptable to a certain degree, but that looks fantastic. This is just incredible from down here. The different colour rocks. You've got greeny, mustardy coloured, onto light grey, onto dark grey, and onto the two-tone rocks. This is just brilliant. And the formation of the rocks are a little bit like the Irish Giant's Causeway. They're a little bit like that. Incredible how all this is materialised. Just awesome. And that water is just, that's crystal. I was going to say bath water, but it's nothing like bath water after I've been in it. that water is just, oh, honestly, if it wasn't cold, you'd be in there. What a fantastic place to snorkel. Whew, right, enough waffling. Let's get this blooming camera set up on this tripod and let's look for a composition. Right, so very briefly, let me explain what I've done. Without adding my 10 stop filter on at this present moment in time, I've got my composition. I've taken a slightly brighter image. The background, the sky is way overexposed, but I want to pull detail out in the rocks. So at the moment, I've just exposed for the rocks. I've made them slightly dark because I only want to pull a little bit of information out. That's on picture number 1. Picture number 2, with my histogram, I've exposed for the brightest part of the image, which obviously is the sky and the sun, and I've managed to capture that. So I've now got a good sky and I've now got good foreground. Now I've added my 10 stop filter and I've calculated a 2-minute exposure to flatten the water. So I can now combine all 3 images to produce one good picture. That's the plan. Right, that's looking great. So I'm going to grab you guys and I'm going to head up the beach and see if I can grab a picture using that wall as foreground interest. But obviously I'm going to have to be super quick. I literally rushed 50 yards to get here to grab one more shot, one more composition. The wall just didn't work, so I stood on the wall and used part of the wall as foreground interest on the right hand side. Like I say, shoot it directly into the sun. This is going to be silhouetted. Construction wise, it's going to be an okay picture, but I'm not expecting too much. But you know what? Listen. I'm stood just 3-4 feet away from the sea. Look. And it's as still as anything. What a fantastic night. Sometimes you've just got to suck this in, absorb it, and tell yourself, coming away with award-winning pictures is great, but it's not everything. It's not everything when it comes to landscape photography. If that was everything when it came to landscape photography, we'd be very disappointed on 99.9% of all the trips that we make. Sometimes it's just great to absorb it, take it all in and enjoy the moment.